It's almost 2 in the morning. My girlfriend comes into town in like 5 hours. I haven't even cleaned up the place, so I did not write a script. This is gonna be as off the cuff as it gets. And I know I'm gonna be pissing everybody off with this video. So let me start off with something that I know is not gonna make my demographic happy. I never cared about Gamergate. Couldn't give a fuck. Couldn't be bothered. I've been playing video games all my life. I have video game tattoos. I have video games on my wall. I don't care, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because corruption by private companies, when private companies collude to do corrupt shit, I couldn't care less. And you know why? Because I can choose to not give them money anymore, to not give them my page views or my clicks or my, I can just shut that off from my life and just never deal with that anymore. I can criticize it, but then I can fucking move on. When government engages in corruption, I can't choose not to give my money to government anymore. I can't choose not to pay taxes anymore because government is corrupt, and government is corrupt. So that's the thing. I couldn't give a fuck about Gamergate. Their claim is that the social justice warriors have colluded with the gaming publications, and then they're getting favors to promote their crappy video games, and then I don't give a fuck! I just stopped reading the magazines, I stopped going on the websites, and the problem, as far as I'm concerned, is solved. That being said, as a gamer, I'm not super happy with the things Anita Sarkeesian has said about video games over the years. And I know what you're thinking. It's another bearded guy wearing glasses with video games up on his wall and action figures, another man-child complaining about feminists and video games. This is not what this video is about at all, right? Like, I'm not a feminist. I wouldn't call myself a feminist supporter or an ally. I have a lot of criticisms about the movement as a whole. Not the ideal. The ideal is always pure and it's always perfect and but it's the execution. It's the way people behave in the search of that ideal that usually people have a problem with, and that's my problem with mainstream feminism. I'm not the kind of guy that's just gonna go around attacking feminists and all this shit. I think that's ridiculous. And let me also say this. Anybody who attacks Anita Sarkeesian on her looks, or they go in and say shit to her on Twitter and they attack her in any way, you're making your cause look bad. So you have to stop being an idiot. Just let the woman be, criticize what she's saying, but try to keep it civil. She's a human being as well. And again, to the level-headed, like I know that some people enjoy seeing that, people just shitting on somebody because they have the wrong opinion. And this is the thing, right? Like a lot of people, the skeptics, they say that SJWs, they crucify somebody for wrongthink. But then if somebody who's, let's say, social justice inclined, they say what the anti-social justice consider wrongthink, they get criticized and crucified and dogpiled just the same. So the way I see it, SJWs and the SJW community, they're really two sides of the same coin as far as I'm concerned. They're people who like to trounce on people if they detect something that is not like you're thinking in a way that I don't approve of, and so I'm gonna drag you through the mud. It's something that I wash my hands of all of this, okay? So this is a huge disclaimer. Anyway, let's get back into the video. Anita Sarkeesian, as you know, in case you don't, she's a feminist who is a noted pop culture critic, and she has made a series of videos called Feminist Frequency, where she analyzes some of the tropes in video games and she gives her read of the situation, right? And she's entitled to her way of reading these things. Art can be interpreted more than one way, and though I find that a lot of the arguments she makes are uninformed at best and outright misleading and dishonest at worst, it's okay to be wrong, okay? She can just be wrong. That's fine. That's totally fine. But one thing she has said consistently over the years is that video games can enact change in the real world. That's the crux of her argument. Video games, if they're sexist, if they're misogynist, that in turn can create those effects in the real world. So it's not that a game has these elements because that's how the world is and the game is trying to emulate the world. This is my view, right? Like GTA is violent because the world is violent. Such a thing as Grand Theft Auto exists, right? Like it wasn't named after the game was named after it. The game is mirroring the reality we live in, right? So, but she believes it's the other way around. Despite all evidence to the contrary, she thinks that if a video game is violent, if the video game is sexist, that will create that kind of change in society, right? And that's a topic for a whole nother video, and I think people who are more capable than me have tackled this issue already, so let's just brush that off. Why am I bringing... Oh, by the way, before we move on, because I saw some people on Twitter saying that this wasn't the case, here's Anita saying exactly that when confronted with the criticism that video games are just a fantasy, that they're not real, that they don't create realities. Here's her saying exactly the opposite.
How do you respond to critics who say, well, this is fantasy, this is not reality, you have to lighten up?
Yeah, that's a fun argument. Games have a huge impact on our society, so it's not just fantasy. It actually works to potentially reinforce some pretty harmful messages about women.
Alright, so why is this relevant? As we know, there's a big gun debate going on, and my previous video was about that, Trump talking about taking the guns away, which is a massive departure from the standard GOP line. And Trump has recently said that he's going to sit down with game makers and he's going to want to have a debate about video game violence because he believes that video game violence can become real-world violence. Now, you would think that that is exactly what Anita Sarkeesian has been saying for the last, 4 years, right? Well, apparently Anita Sarkeesian disagrees because she tweeted this. Yeah, she thinks that Trump, by saying that violent video games cause real-life violence, the entire thesis of her whole channel is about that very concept, that video game violence becomes real world violence, video game misogyny becomes real world misogyny. That's her whole shtick. And now she's saying that Trump is scapegoating video games. So what she's basically saying is that so she disagrees with Trump. So when Trump says that we have to tackle video games, this could be the cause. This is why these things are happening in the real world, because we've allowed video games to do this for so long. She disagrees? You know, this makes me think, and again, I hate to be the cliched, like I said, the guy with the glasses and the beard and the video games and the action figures and whatever, criticizing Anita Sarkeesian. That's so 2013, right? But what the fuck? Do these people have... For years, people have criticized Anita Sarkeesian for having no integrity, right? Either by missing the deadlines for the crowdfunding campaign for her documentary series, right? Not delivering the bonus content she promised, by misleading and misinforming and stealing video game footage for her videos, right? People have accused her of all sorts of things that boil down to she has no integrity. This woman used to be a multi-level marketing representative. So that alone, even if I hadn't heard anything she ever said in video games, that alone would make me dislike her. But that's my point, right? Like, for years, people have said this woman has absolutely no integrity, right? She's just saying whatever to make a buck. That's her business model, and that's fine. Again, if you want to make a buck by being a critic, a pop culture critic, that's fair. I believe in the free market. If people see value in that, if people want to pay you for that, all the power to you, right? Even if you end up pissing off the people who disagree, that's part of the gig. If you're on the internet and if you're speaking your mind, you're gonna piss people off, as I'm sure I'm gonna be pissing people off with this video. But the bottom line here is that this woman has spent the bulk of her body of work is about arguing that video games enact real world violence. And as most liberals, she's against guns, she's in favor of gun control, she's in favor of analyzing what video games are doing to society. And again, as a liberal, as somebody who leans on the socialist side, I am sure she favors government stepping in to fix this issue, right? And now the president of the United States wants to look into this, and just because she's a liberal and she obviously hates Trump like most liberals, she's now saying, oh, look at him blaming video games for real-world consequences. He's scapegoating video games. I'm not a Trump guy, as I'm sure you know, and I really dislike people who, whatever Trump says, all the dumb shit he says, they go like, oh, no, you have to, this is 4D chess. You know, he said this because then it makes liberals say this, and then it's like this checkmate. It's like, okay, the guy's not a fucking genius, all right? I'm sorry. I know you believe that. Trump is not that smart. But in this case, and I'm still not saying I agree with that sentiment, but it does give that credence that he's had somebody like Anita Sarkeesian, which many would think represent a lot of what the Trump movement, let's call it, works against. Right? The liberal, the SJW, the feminists who are taking over and ruining everything, like some guys like to say. Right? So I'm left with the situation where Trump says exactly what she's been saying, making her backtrack and now apparently say the opposite or be against somebody who's espousing the views she's been parroting for half a decade at this point, almost. It's hard to argue with Trump supporters who claim that everything he does is crazy 4D chess when he pulls off shit like this. Accidentally, I am sure. Again, I don't think Trump is smart enough. I don't even think he knows Anita Sarkeesian or her ilk exists for this to be a calculated move. I think he just says whatever because he's a populist, first and foremost. But it's, holy shit, how crazy is it? I never thought that in 2018, Anita Sarkeesian would be criticizing somebody who says video games create real world violence. I don't know what to expect. This year is going to be a crazy ride. Anyway, that's all the time I have for today. Like I said, this video is a little more rambly than usual. But if you guys enjoy this style, it's actually easier for me because I don't have to do as much research and post-production is a little bit quicker. So I really want to hear your feedback on this. I have to bring this up again. I am giving away a new 2DS XL. The box is here somewhere. It's over there. I see it now. You can't see it, but it's here. Trust me. In order to participate, there's a link in the description. You make sure to click that. You're going to have to be subscribing to my channel, subscribing to Bob Wolf, a good buddy of mine here on YouTube. You have to follow both of us on social media, and yeah, you have a chance to win a new 2DS XL, a device that I'm in love with at the moment. All my gaming is being done on my new 2DS XL. I just love the thing, which is why I chose to give it away. I want you guys to enjoy the same thing I'm enjoying. Because I'm a narcissist. Anyway, like I said, that's all the time I have today. I really do have to clean this place. My girl comes in like, seriously, less than 5 hours. And I haven't even slept yet. All of this was a bad idea.